When Manav and myself started our first entrepreneurial venture, 1997, 1998 in India, the global spa industry was producing approximately $4 to $5 billion in revenue. Most hoteliers said, stay far away from me. We don't want to hear anything about what you're doing. That's beauty, that's for women, that's fitness, that's for people we can't relate to. Today, it's a $650 billion industry. So I'm going to share with you today some examples of what it takes to develop and take a piece of real estate and merge that with hospitality and retail, food and beverage, organic farming, and so forth, to make that an extremely healthy business model. Briefly about our company. We are a company which is divided into two subsections. One is Hotelivate Health and Wellness. That's a sister company of Hotelivate, I was told by Manav. And the other one is GOCO Hospitality, where we design and develop and then operate our projects. It's a turnkey approach. We started the company in order to make sure that we can take a project from the initial feasibility over concept work, over design, development work, into the financial successful managing of the respective property. Here are a couple of examples of our work. This is right now the largest project we have. It's in the Middle East somewhere. It is owned by a large sovereign fund. And on this 62-kilometer stretch of land, somebody affluent wants to wean away his economy from the oil-based economies, which are very strong there, and the main income source, into something much more exciting. And he eschews an art, but predominantly wellness as its main anchor. The architects involved in this are people like Schweder, Jean Nouvel, Sir Norman Foster, ACOM, HKS, Jean-Michel Gatti. So really, the icons of today's architectural world. Here are a couple of slides there. This is an island which will be mostly concentrated on art-related environments. And here you can see the further evolution of this project. Bottom right here is the Indian village. Top left, it's the medical centers. We also all do the Bulgari spas around the world. Here are some visions of that. Lots of Four Seasons. The latest Four Seasons here in Bangkok is going to be done by us, as well as the Four Seasons in Tokyo. The two Capellas in the Maldives, as well as here in Bangkok. A couple of Ritz-Carltons, including the one in Mumbai and in China. And then lots of work in the Middle East. Pretty much all the EMA projects are created by our design studios. So now we come to the meat. It's a $3.7 trillion industry. Now, if you look at the industry, the vanity, of course, is number one, beauty. But if you look at how they are connected, right? Wellness tourism, fitness, sustainable food practices, thermal bathing, nutrition, they're all intermerged, right? So it's an industry which grows approximately at 7-8% every year, and it's much more interlinked than many, many other industries. Now, that's a very important slide. If you look here between 2008 and 2010, we all remember the issues many businesses had, right? We didn't know if the world was going down. We didn't know if the next depression was around the corner. We didn't know if you can take loans. But this business has doubled in a time when austerity was actually the thing to do. So when you have a business which doubles at a time when everybody is fearful of making an investment into the smallest thing, then you know you have somehow a rather robust business model. Now, people vote with their money and people vote with their time. If you look at where they spend their time and where they spend their money, you can see it's in prevention, it's in food, it's in anti-aging, it's making sure that they live longer. And I think the mantra of living longer and healthier is very, very common, it's very well understood. Now, if you look at the ordinary, and when I talk ordinary, I talk about icons, Interconti, Six Senses, Banyan Tree, Four Seasons, Anantara, and related, and we look at their business model, we can see that they're running good occupancies, but when in April and May, when the worst tourism season is here in Thailand, they're running somewhere in the 30s and 40s and 50s. Now, if you look at how Thailand is divided, right, you have in Koh Samui and Hua Hin, and I don't mention them, or I can mention them, actually, it doesn't matter. We have Kamalaya and we have Shivasam, right? Now, in the worst time, when the people who run ordinary meaning very good resorts, having occupancy issues and running in the 30s to the 50s, the destination resorts in 2 locations running in the 90s. So which hotel do you want to own? You want to own the hotel, which of course does better in the worst time, because the issue is always to get occupancy in the weak periods. Christmas, everybody is full, right? So you want to make sure that your resort and your hotel is robust and does well when everybody doesn't do well. Now, if you look at the average rates, and we know the average rates here in Thailand, what are the average rates in Hua Hin? $200, $300, perhaps $400, while Shivasam achieves something around $1,000 US per person per day. If you go to Samui, situation is similar, $300, $400, $500. That's where most hotels are. Kamalaya achieves nearly $1,000. If we go now to Italy and Spain, Spain is the Shah Wellness Clinic, which we created and managed. We can see the same phenomena. Most hotels in that region generate somewhere around $250 to $350. So they are seasonal proof, and they generate per person per day substantial more money, revenue, and income than any other business model. Now, how does that merge with the large-scale facility? We're going to come to this in a second now. The destination wellness resort has the wellness retreat as the clubhouse. That's where you communicate, that's where you come to, that's where you stay, that's where you exchange, and it has the real estate and the active living component. This means either the retirement component or the branded real estate, or a combination of both in some aspects. You have them combined there. So you're building a clubhouse, but really your big money is being made in those 2 others. We can see this here. And the good thing is, and we have for sure real estate developers amongst us, that you make your real money in the premium you get. Here are some examples being noted down here in England, as well as the United States, where substantial premiums in Atlanta as well as in London are achieved. So who doesn't want to live next to the yoga class, next to the Ayurvedic doctor, the Chinese medical doctor, next to the fitness studio, and so forth? You have that all at your fingertips, right? So it's part and parcel of your lifestyle, and that's really what we want today. Now, I'm going to bring you through a little journey of what we did in California. In this part of the world, in order to be successful, and Charlie and myself spoke earlier this today, it is sad, but it's true. You need to have always a reference where you can say, you know, I do this in this part of the world and I'm successful. People here don't sometimes trust what they can do on their home turf. Now, so we ventured to California. Why did we venture to California? For 2 reasons. We bought history. We bought America's oldest hot spring resort. It's 160 years, which is in Thailand not much. In Asia, actually doesn't mean anything. In India, it's not even considered anything of history. But in North America, 160 years in California, that's pretty much when it all started, right? So we bought the oldest hot spring there, and it was doing well. It was doing well. But we saw an opportunity, and then what we did is we bought immediately the next door. And why did we buy the next door plot of land, or 85 acres in total? Because we were in an amazing location. So we are based here between Palm Springs, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and San Diego. So we have around 30 million people in a driving distance of 1.5 to 2 hours, depending where you are. So we have really, you know, no problem of attracting and having the right infrastructure to go there. Now, we also know with California, we bought innovation. All the people know that, healthy lifestyles, surfing, organic food, the hippie movement in Berkeley, that all comes from California, has its roots there, California is known for it. If that is always true, I'm not so sure. But, Apple, Facebook, Dell, they all come from there, right? So we are in a part of the world which is very dynamic, which is very innovative, and really has lots going for itself. So here you can see what we bought. So we bought the old 160-year-old hot spring resort. And we bought the entire hillside there. And the good thing is, on the right side of the hillside was the Glen Ivy golf course. So that means we had even a branded golf course, even though we didn't have to buy it, lose our money on the golf course. But we had a branded golf course on the right side. So that was excellent. It was the right decision for us. Now here a little bit a walkthrough, and the LA Times actually was called LA Star at some point. And the LA Star reported the drive to San Bernardino and the 50 kilometers from downtown LA, and that you can take in hot springs there. Now this is the original bathhouse from, I think, 1870, yeah. 25 cents, including a bathing suit and a towel. Not a bad deal. Here you can see the start of the Vida Resort, where you can see on the left side the old hot spring resort. That's the first hotel which started there, and that's the original hot spring bathing house. Then it came to the 50s and 60s and 70s, and then that started in the 90s until around 2010. And then that's where we then purchased. And here a little bit some vistas of how it looks today before we're going to start looking into the future there. Now when we took it over, the project was managed by the president of the International Spa Association. Now you would assume that the president of the International Spa Association is a star, and he can, of course, manage a facility to its T's, like Paul Bocuse running your restaurant, right, Rohit? I mean, that would be a trick to do. Now we looked at the numbers and we said, wow, there is a lot of potential there. So what we did is we went to the guest and we had a long questionnaire and said, listen, we have every year at that time around 130, 150,000 guests. We made a questionnaire and said, listen, what do you want? What do you need? How do you like it? When do you want it? I mean, the common things to do, right? Guest, satisfy your guest, give them when they need that, how they need that, and when they need that, right? So very common questions. No scientific surgery, no Einstein, nothing complicated. And then we implemented what they asked us to do. And that's the P&L, how it looks 2 years later, when we asked them what to do, and we did what they asked us to implement. So from $19-20 million average income, we generated 26 last year. We are right now $700,000 ahead of a $29 million budget. So I think we're going to hit this year 30 million. So we moved it from 20 million to 30 million in 3 years. We had a guest count of 130 to 150,000. We moved it last year to 190,000. This year we expect around 210,000 people to show up on our door. And actually the biggest problem we have is capacity. We can only take in 1,200 people a day. Now, we became so popular that during the entire summer months last year, on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, and sometimes on Sundays, at 9 o'clock we had to close the doors. Now, do you want to have a facility where you can close the doors at 9 o'clock in the morning, you have 1,000 people inside, giving you $150 per person? You like that, right? I like that too. So here, some details now. In food, that's an interesting one here. So we have 3 million in food. Not bad for a spa, right? Now we're generating over 5 million in food. Now, I'm sure that the financiers amongst us say, oh, you added capacity, right? You added seats and you added this and that. No, we didn't add one single seat. We simply changed from preserved goods and really unhealthy food and lots of Coke and lots of really the wrong things to 70% organic. Very simple. We just changed the menu. Served hot food cold, hot food hot, cold food cold, prepared it well, and we nearly doubled the revenue in food. So we moved it from an EBITDA of 1.5 million to 6 million. Our budget for this year is 8.5, and I think we are going to end up slightly above 9 million in EBITDA this year. Now, what does it do to our valuation? We couldn't go to Hotelivate, even not we would have gone to Hotelivate. We couldn't go to Hovers because we have a license agreement with Hovers. So we went to HVS. Some of you guys remember that company? And Manav, do you remember? So we went to HVS and said, listen, you know, make a valuation because we want to know where we are because we want to refinance. So we bought it in 2015 at 30 million. Actually, it's not true. We bought it on the 13th of January 2016. We made a valuation from HVS. It was 62.5 million after 2 years of us operating. Or with other words is, we have just doubled the value of our property. So the difference is 108%. Now, so we bought it in 2015, the valuation of there. Then right now we are investing. We started to invest. We're going to invest a total of $35 million. We are going to create an entire lifestyle wellness hotel there with 140 keys designed by Martin Paleros, who's also here. And the valuation somewhere will be 150 million in around 3 years from now, perhaps 4 years from now. So I show you this example, and you know, we don't have to hide. We're not a public listed company. You know, we can show you our data. But if you do and you work with your real estate, with your hospitality, with your product, and you mix them appropriately, you can generate quite a bit of a business model there. And while wellness real estate is in the United States much more common, in Europe very, very common because it has historical links to it, in Asia it's relatively new. And I show you this here because I believe there's a huge future for wellness-related real estate projects in this part of the world. Now, a little vista, and this is designed for Martin Paleros, or Terra Design. I show you a little bit of a walkthrough through the entire property. So we bought the entire hillside, and we're going to keep, of course, the hot springs here. But you can see how small the hot springs is in comparison to the entire site we bought. We're putting a hotel here on the right side, and then this entire portion, we're facing the golf course, will be real estate, and here the best vistas, and this is all organic farming. This is kind of the segregation on a large scale. So it's a mixed-use development where from condos to individual homes, from large-site vistas to smaller units of 300-400 square meter. Everything is available like in a city where you have a lot of different people with different income streams, but they all want to live in that particular city. So when you create a community, you want to make sure that you get the mix right in order to accommodate a wide variety of different income needs and social needs into the project. Now, what are the profit centers? The profit centers, and today, and many speakers allude to that, it's really the real estate. Because today you cannot afford any piece of development anymore if you don't get your finances right. Hospitality is really secondary because it's driven by the value of the land and it's by the value of the building you are creating. The wellness center, a wellness center for a project like this is somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 square meter. Here in this case, we also have the hot springs, of course, which allows us to take in such a large volume of guests. Then there's the day user, then there's the hotel user, then there's retail. I mean, retail in a project like this does 2 to 3 million US a year. I know many restaurants who don't even do half. So retail here is just an auxiliary business because when you feel good, you tend to buy much more. So you put your retail at the exit when you had a great day and you really feel good because then the probability to buy is much higher. Food and beverage, people pay for great food. Organic farming, we have 18 acres of organic farms. Last year, and we're using all the organic farming products in our restaurants. Last year, we sold 135,000 pounds of organic avocados because we couldn't use them. Great problem to have. A pound of avocado in California is around $2 $2.50 per pound. So it's a nice income stream as well. One of the interesting things we did, and we didn't understand really the impact we made with that, we have 20 homes there at this moment. We rent them out. And part of the rental contract was, because people ask us, say, can we go to the Orange Hind? Can we go and grab the avocados and, the lemons and relate? And we said, yeah, just go and get them. So we put this in the contract that you are allowed to pluck the fruits and utilize them for your own consumptions, right? Like Garden of Eden many years ago when we were all kids and we always wished, to go into a garden and pick the fruits. People couldn't believe that, but nobody is misusing it. Nobody comes with a truck, loads the truck up in order to make some extra bucks. They honestly go there, they utilize it, they're very happy. Now we just extended a part of the hot spring, we put the apple trees inside there so that people can simply have their bathing experience, they can go to the spa and in between they want to grab an apple, just go by the apple tree, get one, it's part of the experience. So it's very down to earth, it's very real, it's very democratic, it's not complicated. To create a community is actually what many of us are craving. We're living in a lot of high-rises, there's a lot of concrete around us, so we want to create spaces which are, of course, well-planned, every inch is planned for, but at the end of the day, the aim is here to maximize the real estate, but maximizing real estate is also meaning giving you a lot of space. So what does that mean in square meters? Only 50% of our land will be built up. The rest will be all organic farming, green, and you can just go and walk and hike and bike and do what you want to do. Community is very important. People want to live together. Organic farming, farm to table, dining, eating and sharing, playing, having the kids being exposed to what that is. Vincent, you have children. Wouldn't they like to play in a garden like this? Have you found one in Singapore? Not yet, no? And then we were lucky enough to have 1,400 hectares of national forest right behind, adjacent to us. That means indirectly they belong to us because, the hiking, the biking, going up the trails and so that is literally all available on property. Now, a bit of a journey, just 10 slides to show you how it will look when we are finished with this project in 3-4 years from now. This is also designs which are all related to the work of Martin and his design firm. Very contemporary, simple use of materials, concrete, wood, steel, and glass. The inside and the outside is always embraced, and this is our new lazy river, where people simply can bathe in a 100-meter radius and can get swept away by the currents. You can see here, even our parking lot will be very much green and very much sustainable created. Now, some of the people who have seen this presentation, they said, Ingo, why don't you do Southern California architecture? In Southern California, what kind of architecture do we have there? We have Tuscany meets Palma de Mallorca, We actually went totally away from it. We want something very contemporary, very clean, and we want to have not too many materials, and we want to have a very, 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 fresh and vibrant there. So you can see a lot of water, a lot of natural use of light, lots of great flowing spaces, and simple, straightforward 30 square meter rooms. Indoor-outdoor facilities, heights, and these are our meeting rooms. So we don't want to meet in ballrooms which are too warm or too cold and too dark and have any daylight. We want to have all our meeting facilities with direct access to an outside facility, to a garden and a pre-function area. Retail is very important because everybody who lives there has to go shopping. Now, of course, we're going to make sure that all the goodies created in the organic gardens are available, but also other products there. And so we created an indoor-outdoor retail scenario there, where from creative workshops to your next-door farmer, offering to the organic Starbucks to anything else is available. And then comes the GOCO retreat, the clubhouse at the center where everybody can congregate, is welcomed here again, indoor, outdoors, yoga, tai chi, qigong with the vista, In the private environment, different kind of hot springs, not large scale, but much more smaller, intimate, usable for the individual guest. And then farm-to-table dining, real farm-to-table dining, much more than we even do right now, where we utilize the farms, but really the farm will be right in front of the restaurant and be integrated through design. Then here, a look into our residential neighborhoods, from condos of different sizes to homes of different sizes. You will see a wide variety of offerings there, from branded residences to residences which are for sale outright, including the land. We're going to sculpt the entire garden so that environments like this are going to come our gardens where music events and related can take place. So that's a bit of a vista through our project there. What is required to really make that work? You need to have guts. You need to innovate, and you need to believe that the ordinary resort is not the only solution to it. Wellness is something which everybody wants. You can see an economy which doubles in the biggest disaster of modern times is a stable business. You need to be authentic. You can't fudge organic farming. You cannot sell fertilized food as organic food. You cannot. You need to embrace the inside to the outside and the outside in the inside in order to make that work. You need to have people who know what they're doing. You cannot have consultants working on that who normally work on convention centers and really don't have any relationship with that kind of community. People need to feel that kind of space. They need to be aware of what it requires. You need to work with design firms, MEP consultants, pool consultants, and related who really know that space and want to make that space work. And then you have a great business model. Thank you. Are there any questions we perhaps can answer? Charlie? Oh, Manav says no, but Charlie, sure.
Thank you. Very, very informative presentation. I wonder if you could talk about, in the wellness resort space, all-inclusive packages and what we might expect out here in Asia, Southeast Asia in particular. And then in that all-inclusive package, roughly, what's the allocation of revenue for accommodation, food, and then the actual wellness programs, knowing that you usually have paying per person, not per room?
Yeah, well, the first thing is you pay per person and not per room, right? Charlie, you go there, you go with your wife, you go for a different purpose than your wife, you're going to have two different bills, but actually you're going to have only one room to occupy, right? So most probably, if you and your wife go, I'm going to get $2,000 out of you, and next door the Hilton JW or whoever that is makes $500-600 out of the same kind of space. So that's number one. Number two is the people who really come there, they come there in order to participate in the program, right? So the average rate of the room is actually unimportant because you do not sell a room alone. That means you will never ever find in any wellness community any of those programs where you can go and say, Charlie, I just want the room and I want to buy food and beverage extra and the wellness program extra and the Medi-checkup extra and the whatever extra. You cannot. You have to buy the entire package. The second thing is, when you come, I can be sure I'm going to keep you 24/7 in the hotel because I offer you from morning yoga classes to medical checkups to all kinds of services on an entire day basis. This means you don't go for lunch to the marina and for dinner to the fisherman's village or whatever, right? You're going to stay in the property because all your services are incorporated and woven into one, which is the reason why you maximize this. And then in most of those facilities, there's a minimum stay of 3 days. That means you cannot come for just 1 day, check in and check out, but you really stay the entire 3 days there. So the financial model is a very different one. It sounds very easy, but you also have to, from an operational perspective and a design perspective, put that together. And while they may look like resorts, they are actually designed and configured in a very, very different fashion. Does that answer the last one? Manav tells me to get off the stage, so thank you, everybody.